Hi, everybody, and welcome to another bonus episode of Cinemaholics. I'm your usual co-host, Will, and can you guess who's with me? I'm sure you can. It's my good buddy, Corey Woodruff from For the Win. How you doing, man?
I am good, Will. How are you?
I'm good. It's been a while since we had
It's been a minute. We haven't had like the perfect movie.
Yeah.
Because we tried to do Clerks and it didn't work out.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah, I totally forgot that we were gonna do Clerks 3. But yeah, it's been a little bit. I know you did like a joint interview with John not too long ago.
Yes, with Kevin Perjurer of the Fun Club.
But it's been a little bit.
It was a very John and I conversation.
Yeah. But it's been a little bit since you've been on the show. Can you tell us what you've been up to?
Well, just been writing. I've been, texting you. I've been, walking my dog, watching movies, going back and listening to the fine catalog of Cinemaholics podcast. Just
all right.
Click a button and just listen to one from like 3 or 4 years ago, just for the heck of it.
Sure.
But, just living life.
That's good. Well, I'm glad to hear that. I'm glad you're checking out the archive. We have a lot of episodes, and
it's as big as the Mark Maron archive now.
Yeah, we're right up there with WTF with Mark Maron and quality and consistency.
Yes.
But we're here to discuss a notable film, I suppose, in some circles.
Yes.
And that is 80 for Brady. Let's say, vanity project for Tom Brady?
Probably. It's definitely a shrine that is built to what, many would perceive as his greatness. It's probably going to be the only senior citizen-driven comedy in history about people who love Tom Brady. So it's a kind of a once-in-a-lifetime experience. That's for certain.
Yeah, I've been conflicted about this movie because it's something I love and something I hate at the same time. For one, it's a return to sort of female-driven ensemble comedies that I felt were more prevalent in like the 80s and 90s.
Oh yeah.
Even the early 2000s. Like it just seems like it's been a while since we've gotten women of a certain age being an ensemble starring in a film like this for a major studio film that's going into theaters nationwide. I think
it's kind of like that First Wife Club audience type thing. Yeah.
And as far as, 4 of our great silver screen talents, we got, let's see here, we got Rita Moreno, we got Sally Field, we got Jane Fonda, and we got, did I say Lily Tomlin already, or did I? Nope. Yeah, Lily Tomlin.
Last but certainly not least.
Yeah. And who's the star of the film, which I didn't expect going into. I thought it was going to be like Jane Fonda or Sally Field would be the star. Lily Tomlin is the emotional center of the film, which I was very surprised and pleased by. But yeah, it's this mix of like, I love that. I love it that they get to star in a major film like this. The studios such as Paramount are still funding and making movies like this, but we have to suffer the ego and the prestige of Tom Brady kind of giving himself a cinematic pat on the back, to put it in PG terms, for 90-something minutes.
Yes.
That's
a very diplomatic way to put it.
Yeah. I'm not... the main reason I wanted to have you on, outside of, you're a great guest and you're my friend, and I want to discuss this film with you in particular, it's also because you know way more about football than I do. I don't really watch football. I watch one football game a year, which is a Super Bowl, which is fitting because this takes place during a Super Bowl. So I did see this game, which is the 2017 Super Bowl between the New England Patriots and the Atlanta Falcons. And this was I'll charitably say, a traumatic game for you to watch when it happened. Do you want to talk about that a little bit?
Yes. So I am a very, very, very big Atlanta Falcons fan. Like, that's basically my sports team that I cheer for. I pick one that I obsess over, and that's it. I've been a Falcons fan for a very long time, and for years and years and years. Like, there might be some people when they sit down to watch 80 for Brady that kind of don't know what's going to happen in the football game, which is very interesting dynamic. But I would probably say that this movie would not exist if the Falcons had not blown a 28-3 lead in the Super Bowl with about a quarter and a half left in the game. To give context to the non-sporty folks listening, it's the worst loss in sports history, probably. At least top 35. I mean, it could be one.
Is that your objective opinion, or is that your fan opinion, or is it both?
There's an objective argument for it. Like it's a catastrophic loss on a huge stage. Like there are like NBA series and baseball series where people will get up like 3-1 and then they'll end up blowing their lead by losing the last 3 or 4 in the series. But at least in the football realm, it's certainly the most devastating single game loss. Just with the way that the probability was going to shake out, you get up 28 points, 2-3, and just the sequence of events that had to happen for the Falcons to lose that game. It's very cinematic. It's very maddening. I mean, there's a whole movie to be made about how that happened. People have lost games of big margins. So it's not necessarily the fact that they lost. It's just how they did it, where they did it, who they lost to, the way that the game got memed into something that has lasted for the last 6 years. Like all around, it is one of the defining catastrophes for a sports team, and it just happened to be mine that endured it. So when this project got announced, I was like, crap, because I definitely knew I would see it because, I like watching movies about sports, and I have a grandma, so I knew that this would probably fall up her alley and she'd want to go. My wife wanted to see it. But I have tried to avoid watching highlights of this game as much as I can. One time I went to the Pro Football Hall of Fame, and then they had a rotating theater, and it was the year that the Patriots won. So I actually got trapped into a room and had to watch it all play out on a big screen. It was very bad.
Okay.
Yeah, it's terrible. It was awful.
So you've had to watch this game, relive this game 3 times now, and twice on the silver screen.
Yes, and they play clips, a lot of it. I mean, it's a big thing. The 28-3 lead was it's a big sports story in the last 10 years. It's a huge, one of the worst things that's ever happened to a football team. But if you're a Patriots fan, it's legend. It's the best Super Bowl Tom Brady won. It's, the biggest feat of strength that he ever had. So if you're on that side of the fence, it's the greatest thing that ever happened. But if you're in that very niche group of Falcons fans, it's basically I don't know. It's like if you're in the movie Audition, the movie with the needles and everything. It's
Takashi
like
Miike's Audition.
Yes. It's like if you're in that movie and you're just laying there, and at the same time, Nelson Muntz is just sitting there laughing at you all the time. That's what it felt like. It's just it's the most excruciating pain you can imagine, but everyone's laughing about it.
Oh man. Well, yeah. In that respect, I feel a little bad bringing you into this and kind of dragging your hand into seeing this. But you were also pretty excited to see it, so you have that similar kind of push and pull relationship that I had, where I'm like, I don't want to spend money to see this film because I don't want to support Tom Brady because he's also a producer on the film, and I don't really want to support what's basically Patriots propaganda. Because they kind of do a little revisionist history here at times. They definitely make themselves look better than they are. I tend to look at the Patriots, like I said, not much of a football fan, but I tend to look at the Patriots as the bad guys. They don't really always play ethically or fairly, and win a lot.
Historically, so they've had some problems with that, and while Brady was there, especially, it was Deflategate comes to mind, Spygate. They've had some big controversies over time, and Tom Brady is in a much better spot now than he was during Deflategate.
Yeah, I was genuinely wondering throughout the film if they would make a Deflategate joke or reference. Yeah. Just because, and John, because he's probably going to edit this, he can determine for himself whether he can keep this in or not. I was kind of wondering if they would do, because they're, all 4 of these ladies, well, not all 4 of them, but at least two of them are pretty randy. That's kind of a source of empowerment and humor in the film. I was kind of wondering if they would do something where it's like, Tom, you can deflate those balls into me.
That was probably when he was doing his negotiating. He's like, no deflate gate jokes.
Yeah, I'm sure. Yeah, I mean, like,
yeah, he had his team of lawyers there being like,
yeah,
nope.
Yeah, I mean, they definitely prop up Tom to be as clean and sterile as possible as a screen presence. Though I will say, I mean, no spoiler to say that he is a supporting player in the film. He acts a little bit. Yeah. Is this his first acting role since Ted 2?
I think so.
Okay.
I don't think he's done anything that notable.
I can't imagine he's done much else.
No.
Maybe an episode of Entourage or something. I don't know. But
no, he's not going to be the next Ndamukong Asomugha. That's for sure.
Sure.
Who was the former NFL cornerback, obviously, who's transitioned to a pretty successful acting career.
Yeah. John David Washington was also a football player, right?
That's right. Yeah, he did. But the fun thing about Asomugha, he was like...
It's funny because you have a Tenet poster right behind you right now.
I do, yes. John David Washington. Asomugha is kind of the new standard, I think, for athletes who have gone into acting because, like, it's interesting. He was like a high-paid cornerback, like, big to do there for a while, and then there's now like a legitimate like independent film, benefactor, and has turned in some really good performances. I don't think Brady's gonna go in that direction. I don't. I'm just gonna go out on a limb here and guess that Tom Brady's not gonna win a supporting acting Oscar one day.
No. You know who might though? I mean, I should also say that the supporting cast not only includes him, but yeah, I mean, let's see who else is in the film. Billy Porter.
Yes.
Who played Lily Tomlin's daughter? I should look up the.
Sarah Gilbert.
That's right. Yes.
From Roseanne.
Bob Blondin was on the film. That was a surprise to me.
He was. Glenn Sherman.
That's right. But also, as the trailers have, Harry Hamlin was also in. I forgot to mention, but starting his Oscar campaign and his cinematic career is none other than Guy Fieri.
Yes, Guy Fieri.
And I think this will be maybe the only film in cinematic history that will co-star Guy Fieri and Bob Bonneville.
Yes. It's going to be the only film in history that shows Guy Fieri walking out of a porta potty as he begins a scene. Yeah,
to talk to and interact with Academy Award winner Sally Field.
That's correct. It's also going to be the only movie where Rita Moreno accidentally gets stoned and walks into a room of a bunch of Guy Fieri's playing poker. So
I don't want to kind of tip my hand too early, but we are about 15 minutes into this. I'll say, despite my conflicted feelings going into the film and not really, having too high of expectations, just kind of just hoping for the best, I found this pretty charming.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't really endorse what it's doing as far as boosting up the Patriots lore and stroking Tom Brady's ego, but as a little quaint little winter ensemble piece, it's honestly kind of fun,
Yeah, I liked it. It's, myth making in sports is just kind of part of the course, and it's the Patriots dynasty is always going to be one of the most hated things that's ever happened, but also it's just there comes a point where it's even the most begrudged Falcons fan has to look and go, I don't know. It's kind of like that question, do you have to hand it to him? After everything that Brady did, do you? I'm always on the fence. I mean, obviously he's going to be regarded as the best person to ever play quarterback. But I really appreciated that this film didn't just completely overwork that aspect. Now, obviously, Boston sports fans are incredibly annoying, and there's always going to be that level of just Boston sports in general have long become one of the most annoying fandoms, most frustrating groupings of people who that and New York fans probably all kind of coalesce into the same northeastern, hubbub, I guess, of annoyingness. But I really appreciated that this film stuck to its concept enough to where you didn't feel like it was just a big commercial. Like, there's actually a story here that's kind of playing off loosely something that happened in real life, where these, elderly women were all Tom Brady fans, and I think probably went to the Super Bowl together and enjoyed everything. But I don't know for sure if they went to the Super Bowl in real life, but there was like an 80 for Brady group of friends, and yeah, it's hard to watch this movie and take it in and enjoy it and appreciate that it's a pretty good script. Like, it's definitely funnier than you would expect this to be. I don't know. I just feel like when people complain about movies like this, it's kind of like, this is doing exactly what it's supposed to do. Like, this movie is operating exactly in the lane that, like, it wants to operate. Like, it's accomplished everything it wants to accomplish. It's playing as broad as possible. It's going for the widest possible scope of people to just come in and kind of take their mind off everything for a little bit and enjoy something. And I don't know, I feel like, you don't want to be too patronizing to a film like this and be like, oh, pat it on the head and go, oh, okay, you can go over here. But, like, I don't know. I appreciate that this thing really isn't trying to do too much that's not necessary, but it's also taking itself seriously enough to where it's like the silly stuff feels like it's at least grounded somewhat by like a story and characters. And as much as that's kind of cheesy to say, like, we've gotten movies like this where that has not been the case. Like, we have not had any sort of commitment to anything but the jokes. And I feel like this one at least had some parameters in place to at least kind of make it, engaging in that respect.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of fascinating that this and M. Night Shyamalan's Knock at the Cabin are coming out the same weekend, and it kind of feels like a brief little return to like that time in, like, well, let's say like 2006, 2007, when it wasn't just always sequels, always superhero movies, always blockbusters, just like two mid-budget, self-contained little movies, not like totally original in the concept. Obviously, the Shyamalan movie is based on a book, and this is kind of based on a very loose, true story. But yeah, it just kind of feels like, okay, this is what studios movies used to be. Like, we used to get stuff like this all the time. Now it's just like a flash in the pan almost. It just kind of feels something like almost nostalgic in a way.
Yeah, absolutely.
But yeah.
I don't know. It's just, if someone's gonna savage this movie and just be like, "This is terrible," blah blah blah, it does make me kind of question, like, what were you expecting exactly? Like, or I don't know. I just feel like there's a way to read this movie in bad faith and try to, make it something that it's not, and try to say that it was trying to do something that it wasn't. And I don't know. I mean, it's like, this movie is literally called 80 for Brady. Like, if you can't understand that there are just some movies that need to fit in this mold for us to, like, keep certain genres of film alive, then I don't know. I mean, it's just like, everybody wants, I don't know, what do you think is a comedy that gets kind of brandished about right now as something that people want this to be? Or, I don't know, I just feel like we create these very unrealistic standards for movies like this when they are just trying to kind of give people a good time and not trying to do too much. I don't know. It's just, there's a weird dichotomy, I feel like, when movies like this come out that I think most people understand and appreciate it for what it is. But there's always that group of people that I don't think ever give movies like this a fair shake.
Yeah, I mean, you kind of have to meet a movie like this at its level, I guess. Like, you can't really, I don't want to give it like slack or like, not, if there is valid criticisms to be made, I don't want to dismiss those, but I feel like the movie as presented here is pretty self-aware about itself.
Absolutely.
It focuses in on the comedy, but has just enough emotional tenderness and, like you said, a story to it that it doesn't feel, it's not like gender swap grown-ups or something where it's just like them kind of going around and doing lollygagging. There's a little bit of that, but there is enough of a focus, enough of a goal here that it doesn't feel like it's just kind of wasting your time and all that. And it's benefited enormously, I think, by being a clean, but maybe not especially lean 98 minutes.
Yes,
like, I feel like I'd be maybe less forgiving of the film if it was
Mhm.
114
Yeah.
114 minutes. Like that would have tested my patience. That would have probably made me a little bit more negative. But I just feel like because it gets in, gets out, kind of knows what it is. Everyone seems to be having fun. Comes up with some pretty inspired gags, some like jokes that, like you said, kind of generally took me off guard and made me laugh pretty hard. I don't want to spoil too many of them, but like I'm trying to think of one I can kind of give without spoiling anything. But
There's a great gag at a nursing home about somebody just like falling asleep. And
that's a pretty
the
good
people at the nursing home not wanting to like let them out, and just like the shenanigans that come up from like little setups like that help.
Yeah. Also, that like there's like a support group kind of gag.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
I don't want to answer. I don't want to spell too much out, but the reveal of that was so funny to me, and I thought that was a great gag. Yeah, I mean, there's just like little things like this, and that. Yeah, I mean, I think it's benefited by being just goofy enough to where it's able to be heightened and cinematic, but not overly goofy to the point where it loses that sort of emotional sincerity and just kind of gets caught in the bombast of it.
Oh yeah, and it really helps that you've got like this is not just like you know 4 or 5 random like women who are like popular on like like a smaller TV show or or like just do like stand up comedy. Like this is like Lily Tomlin, Jane Fonda, Rita Moreno, and Sally Field. Like that's a heavy hitter lineup. Like that's like a murderer's row of Academy Awards and comedic legends and people who have been involved in like landmark projects. It's like Lily Tomlin is probably in that like Mount Rushmore of like women comics and like or people who have like women who've established themselves in like a comedy drama space. Like she's one of the main ones, and Rita Moreno is an EGOT winner, and Sally Field is a legend in her own right, and so is Jane Fonda. It's like they really just got a very strong quartet of people to come in, and obviously Fonda and Tomlin have been friends for like decades and decades and working together for that amount of time too. So there's a lot going for it. It was written by one of the co-writers of Booksmart, so it's like they definitely brought like real talent to the table here, because I think there's a much lesser version of this movie that you could make, but they just thankfully for the movie's sake didn't do that.
Yeah, I was gonna say. I mean, the film is directed by I think his name's Cal Marvin. Cal Marvin, yeah. And this is his directorial debut, but he was the star, producer, and co-writer of a film from 2020 that I loved. It was actually in my top 10 for that year. I don't know if you've seen it, though. Did you see The Climb?
No, is that who this was?
Well, it's like one of the two guys from The Climb. The other guy who directed the film, Michelangelo Covino, was like an executive producer on it. So they were both involved.
Wow.
And that film, it's kind of almost sort of night and day, because that's like a dark comedy that focuses like many years, but it's like all like the little vignettes in that film kind of like are these extended one shots that kind of travel in and out of places, and it's like a lot more technically accomplished, and it like compared to this film, which is a lot more kind of set in its ways, and has some high concept jokes and set pieces, but it's like a lot more stylistically plain. But yeah, that movie also is able to kind of balance the humor and the drama and the emotional tenderness. In that case, is sort of complex, toxic male relationship that's kind of formed and dissolved and kind of been in a weird place for many years. Yeah, that movie, highly recommend that film. I think you'd like it a lot too.
Check it out.
But it's kind of like it's funny that it's the same guy or one of the same guys as The Climb for 80 for Brady, because it's like kind of the total opposite, but also like very fitting at the same time. These guys. And I do think that having, like you said, just the pretty established talent that like kind of rises above something like, say, Booksmart, or sorry, not Booksmart, Book Club.
Yeah, exactly.
Book Club, I meant.
Booksmart's definitely above both of these, but
sorry, no, I meant to say Book Club and like Palms, which I feel like are kind of contemporaries. I feel like are easier with like the comedy and the jokes. Like there's nothing terribly surprising here, and nothing that's like truly inventing the wheel, but it just seems a lot more, like I said, kind of inspired and a lot more joyful, I guess, compared to those films, which kind of settle in a way that
it's not like it's not trying to do like the Nancy Meyers ripoff thing, because there were a lot of bad movies that came out of trying to respond to that movement of female centric comedy. Like there have been some really dumb, just very low hanging fruit type things that kind of play into more basic tropes, and it's the I enjoyed book club to a certain degree, but like that one definitely is reaching for a more crude, I don't know. It's like, not to say that 80 for Brady has this like high comedic standard, but it's like it's holding itself more to a bar than something like that is. It's just kind of like, just making the obvious jokes just to make them.
I don't know. I just felt like book club was a lot more kind of self-pleased with itself, in the sense like, oh, can you believe that 4 women of a certain age are horny and have sexual thoughts? Could you believe it? And yeah. I don't know. I felt like that movie was a lot more kind of pleased with itself. No pun intended there. In a way that this movie, I don't know. It's obviously, it's a friend dramedy, more on the comedy than dramedy, but drama, I mean. But yeah, I mean, it's just like, it's pretty sweet, genuinely kind of sincere in its intentions, outside of the propaganda of it all.
It definitely, I'm sure that the Robert Kraft family threw a little bit of money under the table to kind of help get the Patriot stuff going in this. And there's some cameos from like Rob Gronkowski and Julian Edelman and Danny Amendola. So it's just like, this is obviously a friendly backyard type event for Boston sports. And again, if you morally can't support Boston sports because of the evil that comes from cheering for one of those teams, I definitely understand it.
Oh yeah.
We the Boston sports are a scourge on this country, but that's not that. That's why I can't go to Boston. It's because I would get in trouble too quickly. But no, I mean, but it's like, it is a throwback. Like there is a certain level where it's just like I do miss just like going to watch a very low stakes movie like this on like a Saturday afternoon, and just kind of, it's kind of like the same reason I enjoyed Plane, which I don't think is like a great movie by any stretch, but it's definitely like, I don't know, I feel like some of these movies are starting to come back with a little bit more quality than some of the stuff that came before it. Because Plane kind of surprised me. I thought that was going to be stupid, but it was actually pretty good, for what it was trying to do. And this kind of is the female-centric comedy version of Plane. Like, if you're going to make 2 random comparisons, I kind of enjoyed them about the same, or it was kind of like, that was actually pretty good. And if we can bring those movies back and make them a little better than their predecessors, then, I'm all for it, especially in this time of the year when you're, doing Oscar catch-up and you don't really have high expectations for what you need right now in terms of new releases. And if that can be the space for these movies to kind of make a comeback, then I'm very down with it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm kind of wondering, and this may be me being too optimistic, but studios are kind of learning that, hey, you can't just make 6 movies that cost 180 million plus each and make a profit, or rely on streaming entirely. That the bubble is going to bop there. That maybe you have to make some movies that are small to mid budget, that you kind of have to roll the dice on it. But if you make 6 or 12 of them, maybe 8 of them will do well, and you can turn a profit at the studio.
Well, this year it's doing well. Like that mentality, because so far of like major 2023 releases, Plane has done well. A Man Called Otto has done well. Overperformed. Megan is maybe going to knock at 100 million potentially.
Yeah. The Whale's also doing well, I heard.
The Whale is doing well. The Whale as well. The Searching. The Searching.
Missing spinoff, Searching spinoff, Missing,
Yes, Searching, Missing, finding. They're finding out at the box office, and that's pretty good.
There you go.
And now we're getting 80 for Brady and Knock at the Cabin, which could also both be pretty modest little hits. Like, I think it's kind of like, it's about the budget. I mean, if you can make these movies for like $10 to $15 million, like, and get like 1 or 2 recognizable faces in it, and put it in a time of the year where it's not being overshadowed by, because that's the nice thing right now is like Avatar has been taking all the box office pull for the blockbusters, and then people are kind of like, well, I've seen Avatar. Avatar's really the only other thing out.
Yeah.
And if we can create a system where it's like there's like one blockbuster, one or two big ones a month, not in the summer, and you can have all these smaller movies like the Cocaine Bears that are coming up and things like that can pull the attention away and kind of build more of a backbone for that stuff to come through. Like, you know, I don't think the future is bright for the Babylons of the universe at all. I actually kind of feel like that one may be more of a eulogy for that style of film. But I actually think I think you're right. I think there is a bright future for moderate investments that are original or based on a book or have people in them you recognize. Like, that's proving that kind of like 35 to 80 audience of, you know, young people are coming to the theaters. They're coming back. Like, and again, I think it's been a promising year so far for where movies are going in terms of us wanting to build this type of movie back up. Like, there are some things that are, you know, I kind of feel like that people got way too dramatic during the pandemic talking about theaters. Like, I think that they're hurting, but they're not dying. Like, I think it's like the difference of a broken leg and a, you know, stage 4 disease. Like, I think that some people thought that, like, this is over, theaters are dead, streaming is king. But now you're saying that streaming is taking a huge hit now that investors are wondering, like, when that plateau was going to hit, which it always was with the subscriber counts. Like, there's just not much more people can do to get people in. And now the streamers are having to adapt to their economic realities, and Netflix is taking away password sharing, and, you know, people are adding more Peacock is getting rid of its free ad tier, so it's just like they're gonna start to become more of a thing now that people are much more comfortable going out of the house. Like, there's more opportunities. You know, the volume isn't where it was pre-pandemic, but I think that now you're going to start to see that uptick. So, you know, there is a certain type of movie that I do think is in a bad strait, which is kind of that auteur passion project, more heavily funded prestige film. Like, if it's even like Steven Spielberg, The Fabelmans was always a strange movie to think it was going to be a huge success, but it definitely underperformed. And that type of a movie, unless it's being made by like Martin Scorsese and, you know, someone's going to pay for it, like, I don't know what the future holds for something like that, but I do think that the 80 for Brady's and Planes of the world are actually in pretty good shape.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot to kind of dive in there, and I don't know if this is necessarily the forum to do that for a review for 80 for Brady, but yeah, I mean, it's a little hard not to be a little doom and gloom at times. Like, I know Regal closed a lot of its theaters, including like a pretty prominent one in Times Square, so it is kind of a battle of like, okay, like, you know, you'll see success stories, like you said, like all those films kind of boosting up, especially coming off of the fall where a lot of those movies were underperforming or tanking. But it does kind of seem like Avatar, for as much people bemoan its lack of cultural impact, is kind of doing the same thing that the first one did around like the start of 2010, which is remind people like, oh yeah, I like going to movies and seeing movies in theaters. Or perhaps they're going to see it, the screenings are sold out. It's like, well, we're here. We got the babysitter. Might as well see Megan or Plane or what have you. Yeah. So it seems like it's kind of benefiting the other films around it, perhaps, and kind of sharing the love a little bit, you know. So I don't know if that's the case for 80 for Brady. It's going to be a test, like you said, in the sense of like, are people, you know, 35, 40 or older still comfortable going to movies? It seems like, you know, it's catered more towards the younger, you know, teenage to, you know, 30 to 35 audience have been more comfortable to go to movies. But yeah, I don't know. It's hard to say. We'll have to find that out later. But
I feel like Tom Brady would tell us to just keep going and, you know, keep playing. And, you know, it's a war of attrition. Like, you know, losing theaters and losing theaters by number and losing the theatrical experience, I think, is going to be the biggest. Like, because I think that the biggest threat to theaters are going to be the smaller locations, the company's mismanagement, the rural areas. Like, you know, you and I live in big cities. Like, we're probably always going to have access to a very pretty healthy theater environment, but, you know, that may not always be the case for, you know, somewhere 30 minutes to an hour outside of where we are. So I think that's, you know, and hopefully the 80 for Brady's of the world can help, you know, salt that a little bit, but we'll see. We shall see.
Yeah. In any case, Well, for one, we should mention that it's kind of fortuitous timing that we're recording this today, because like less than 12 hours after I saw 80 for Brady, and I do want to talk a little bit about my theater experience for 80 for Brady, because I'm very curious if it was similar to yours. He announced that he's retiring for good, he says. Which kind of makes the last scene of this film, without giving too much away, kind of funnier. And already dating a film that hasn't even come out yet a little bit, but that's neither here nor there, I guess. Do you have any thoughts on Brady calling it quits?
You know, it's kind of one of those things where it's kind of like after last year, you're like, is he really done? Like, he says it's for real this time because he tried to retire last year, then he unretired. Came back, his season did not go well. And they won the NFC South, but that's where the Falcons are. It's a very bad division this year.
He's been humbled a bit.
Yes, he has.
He's going through a divorce. Had his first losing season, I believe. Ever. It
was it's weird to see it all kind of play out like this. I'm sure he probably regrets coming back this year because it just didn't go well at all. But it wouldn't surprise me if this really is it, because it doesn't seem like he's going to attract a lot of fanfare just organically. I mean, that's just kind of the nature of who he is, and just he's one of the most famous athletes on earth and the biggest sport on in America right now. So it's just like there's always going to be some attention that goes to him, even 10 years from now when he's not for sure not playing. But if he came back, it wouldn't shock me. If he's really done, it wouldn't shock me. Like, it's just kind of like one of those things where you kind of know what you get with who he is and how he operates, because he's very consistent in that regard. That is one thing I will say about Brady, is he's very consistent.
Sure.
So he's always going to find some way to make the situation about him eventually. And he's signed this huge broadcasting deal with Fox to be part of their A broadcast team, which I could get into the whole complexities of that and how that. Some people don't know if that's the best idea but we won't get into the broadcast talk there. But I mean, it's very funny that he chose to retire the same week a movie comes out about him.
That's what that's what makes me kind of curious if it's kind of calculated, like, because he's a producer on the film. If he's kind of like, well, maybe I can kind of spur some people to see the film.
Oh yeah, this is gonna help the film's box office. Like, there's just no question about that. Like, the box office for this film was never gonna be like Avatar money, but like they're gonna pick up some business because of this is happening. Because it's like, oh my gosh, like Tom Brady's done. Oh, there's a movie out about him. I'm gonna go see the movie.
Well, and it's like free press for the film, because it's like people are talking about Tom Brady. It's like, oh, by the way, there's a movie about him, that's coming out in 2 days.
Oh yeah, I mean, he's printing money from this. He's going to make money off the movie. Like, he's definitely strategic. This is partly strategic, but then again, everything with Tom Brady is strategic. Like, he's kind of like Taylor Swift of sports. Sure. Like, everything's very calculated. It's just like, we're not just putting this out there on a whim. Like, there's a very set business model for the reason I'm doing these things. And there's other entertainers that kind of have that same mentality. LeBron James is very similar. Like, there is a path that I'm going to take that I know that is going to make me money, and I'm a big deal. So this is what I'm going to do. It's what I always do. That's life.
It's wild that he's going to get in the television, though, because I find to be fairly lacking in charisma as a screen presence.
And like right now, Greg Olson, who's a former NFL tight end, he's got the job that Brady would go into and is doing a tremendous job. So there's some controversy right now being like, why would Fox get rid of this guy? But broadcast careers can be very short-lived. Tony Romo is an example of somebody who entered the game very strong at CBS, and he's really floundered as of late. So it's a different world going into the booth. Like, it's one of the hardest jobs that people, I think, take for granted. Being they think it's easy to just go sit there and talk about football, but it's very difficult. I mean, there's no question about doing the color commentary, especially it's hard.
Not everyone can be Terry Bradshaw.
There's only one Terry Bradshaw, and sometimes that's not a good thing.
Oh, are you anti Terry Bradshaw?
Terry Bradshaw is just such a singular personality, but he had a moment recently where he got a lot of flack for like kind of taking over the Eagles NFC Championship trophy ceremony, and he kind of just like,
Oh, is that right?
he got a little too shenanigan heavy, and had a little too much fun with it.
Okay.
But he's an enigma. I'll say that.
Sure.
He's a fun personality, but he's definitely an enigma.
Sure. Did you ever see Fair the Launch, by the way?
No, I know he's like a pretty big actor in that.
Sure. Yeah, that's a funny thing. That's a fascinating film. Not really, actually. It's a pretty mediocre film.
Yeah.
But it's fascinating for him because it's like his only acting role, as far as I can recall. Like, unless he was like in The Longest Yard or something, I don't know. But I think that's his only acting role. He's not playing himself. Like, he's playing a character. He's playing Matthew McConaughey's dad.
Yeah.
And like he's not, he holds his own. Like he's fine. It's been a while since I've seen it. But he has an extended nude scene in the film.
He does.
Yeah,
that's correct.
Okay, yeah, and it's just like funny, like in because I'm from Pittsburgh. He's obviously a Steelers legend, and it was a source of controversy as far as like. Well, we want to support Terry Bradshaw, but like we don't really want to see him nude on the big screen.
That's the wrong type of immaculate reception. Like you don't want to. R.I.P. Franco Harris. While we're at it.
Oh yeah. Forgot. Yeah. But yeah, I remember the review in the local paper was just like kind of devoted to that scene where it's just like never in all my years of reviewing a film did I expect to see Terry Bradshaw's butt. Not in anything, not even a comedy.
He really needed to be covered up with a terrible towel. Like that would have been.
Yeah, like in This Is Us or something.
Yeah.
Any case, do you think this movie had too much football?
I thought it was a pretty. I mean, sure, of the Super Bowl highlights, yeah, cut them all out. I mean, I don't want to sit there and watch that again, but like, gosh, I was literally sitting there like
the Falcons
yelling.
cut.
Like trying to not to yell in my seat, being like, "That's a hold! He didn't catch it!" Like the Edelman catch. I still don't think that's a catch, but I'm biased. But yeah, I thought that it was a sports surrounded movie, and I appreciated that. That's kind of they kept that pretty prevalent throughout, but I didn't feel like it was overwhelming. I think if you're not a sports person, you can still go sit and enjoy this for sure.
I mean, I don't know. I just kind of felt like towards the end, like it got
toward the end for sure.
It got a little heavy on the football, and I felt like, I don't know. I kind of felt like maybe Brady as a producer, or maybe the Patriots in general is kind of like, what if we, what'd be great for this comedy if we just had more football? It's like, well, it doesn't really add to the comedy. Yeah, but it'd be kind of cool. Yeah.
Let's have them go into the coach's booth and just start helping the coaches, and the coaches being totally fine with that, being like, yeah, sure, why not?
Yeah. I was a little surprised that Brady got to drop the F-bomb in this. I thought it was like Brady was like squeaky clean, so I thought it was a little surprising.
Oh no, he says lots of F-bombs. He gets caught on the sideline swearing a lot. And temper tantrums were really bad for him later in his career. Like he broke a lot of tablets. So that was kind of he got known for some he can throw some hissy fits, that's for sure.
But I was going to ask you, so I was kind of wondering throughout the film, if there would be like a Dolly Parton cameo, because we have two of the stars from 9 to 5 in this.
Yes.
And I was kind of thinking like there would be a fun scenario where if they like ran into like it's Matt Ryan is the quarterback for the Falcons at the time, right?
Yeah.
If there was like Dolly, Bette Midler, Goldie Hawn, and Diane Keaton are like they also have their like 80 for Brady happening at the Super Bowl at the same time, and they like kind of just cross paths. But it's like it's a happy ending for the one, and just like this dark tragedy that's happening for these other four ladies. I would
probably related to that movie a lot more.
I was wondering if maybe we could pitch that if this does well, and kind of explore the spin-off possibilities for 80 for Brady. What would that movie be called, though?
It's probably
Crying for Ryan.
Yeah, Crying for Ryan. That's right. That is perfect. Glenn Powell would make a great Matt Ryan. Because I don't think Matt Ryan would want to play himself in that movie. But yeah, that would the 80 for Brady cinematic universe is going to be. And there's like, would you just like follow what other NFL fans do that weekend? Like there's a bunch of Dolphins fans. There's some Steelers fans.
Sure.
Yeah, there's like a whole cinematic universe you can build here.
Yeah. Yeah, a whole movie about Guy Fieri, what he's doing this whole weekend.
Right. What did Guy Fieri do during the Super Bowl game? Let's find out.
And then there's just like
Money for Fieri.
an extended shot of him in the outhouse. We only see it from the outside, but just like extended, like 10-minute non-broken shot.
That would have been a really good post-credit scene. It's just him getting stuck in the porta potty and just in there banging on the door, being like, "Hey, can anyone come help? It's Guy Fieri."
Yeah, star of the television and now silver screen.
Yeah, that's right.
Did you know that Dumpsters Dives, or what's that show called?
Drive-ins
and Dives.
Drive-ins and dumpster dives. That's a different Guy Fieri show.
Oh, okay.
That's later in his career. Diners, drive-ins, and dives.
That's it. Yeah, that ended in 2021. Apparently.
Oh wow! Did it really?
According to IMDb.
Damn. Maybe he's got to like slow down a little bit. He's getting a little older. Like,
I think he's actually doing more now. I think he's like
really.
I think he has other shows. Like he's like the face of the Food Network. I'm surprised Food Network didn't like co-produce this movie or whatever.
They're probably running a lot of advertisements. Guy's Grocery Games probably had an Easter Brady themed Super Bowl episode.
Do you foresee this film leading to more acting roles for Guy Fieri?
I'm surprised that he's not going to pop up in Killers of the Flower Moon.
That's true. Yeah,
you got a lot of different castings for that, and that would have been entertaining. What I want to know is what is the better Super Bowl set movie? Was it this, or was it Baby Annette ratting her father out during Annette? Even though that was called the Hyper Bowl, but it's the same. I want to see that movie, but instead of Lady Gaga doing halftime in this, it was Baby Annette saying, like, Daddy kills people, and then they go back to the game. I was thinking last night, what did they do at the Hyper Bowl after that happened? Like, did they finish the game? Like, they saw like a whole half. It's like, well, this little marionette puppet just said her father murdered people. But we got a great second half coming up.
Well, I got to tell you, Mike, that did not go as expected.
Yeah, I'll tell you what. Henry McHenry is in real hot water now. We don't know what he's going to.
That's going to be one for the ages. Anywho, we got some football to talk about here.
That's right. Everyone in the locker room is pretty affected by all this. A lot of Baby Annette fans in there, and
Yeah, no, I don't know. I mean, I'll always go with bat for Baby Annette. No offense to the four lovely ladies in this film, but
80 for Baby Annette.
Baby for baby. Yeah, Brady for Baby Annette.
That's right. I want to see a movie where Tom Brady is trying to help. He steps in to become the father that Baby Annette needs.
Yeah, there you go. Once so once I don't want to spoil Annette for people who haven't seen it. Any case, final thoughts on 80 for Brady.
It's solid. It's not. It will be funny to me because Diane Warren co-wrote the song if this ends up being an Academy Award nominee.
I was thinking that too. Honestly, I saw her name in the credits. I'm like, I swear, if 80 for Brady becomes an Oscar nominee.
It is very possible.
Yeah.
Like, it would get Dolly Parton at the Oscars and Cyndi Lauper. Like, we could legitimately see a world where it's like 80 for Brady has an Oscar nomination in a year. And
like, whomever Tommy Lee Jones has to be on the Oscar stage and say 80 for Brady.
they get Rob Gronkowski to go to the Oscars. But that's the thing. That could happen. Diane Warren's very shameless, and she'll do her lobbying. So she needs to stop. She needs to just like take her honorary Oscar and just chill. Mm-hmm. But
because like I haven't seen Tell It Like a Woman. I have no idea if it's a bad or good film, but I'm like, that movie doesn't exist. Did anyone watch this movie?
It's the new Alone Yet Not Alone. I mean, that's or like one of those J. Ralph songs from one of those documentaries that gets nominated.
Yeah, people giving poor Andrea Riseborough a hard time. Let's look into this one.
Yeah, Diane Warren's been doing that for years. She has like a Rolodex of people she calls to get that nomination. Apparently,
Anywho. I don't have to agree with you. It's a very sweet, laid back, charming movie. Kind of gets in, gets out. Exactly what you expect it to be. Fun movie to watch.
It a B for Brady.
Fun movie to watch. with your parents or your grandparents? Honestly, I
I
mean,
took my grandma and my wife, and they both had a good time.
I was going to ask if they got to see it, so they had a good time too.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yes.
nice. I'm
And
glad to
did
hear.
you get the weird music video on your screening?
No, so I meant to tell you about my screening experience, but I want to hear about this first, and I'll tell you about mine.
So before the movie, they just played like a music video for the Diane Warren song, just showing clips of the movie. It was the most awkward thing I've seen in forever. It's Dolly Parton, who's great, and I pass her house all the time in Nashville, but like it's just so weird. It's just like they just play this music video and it's like little clips from the movie. They basically like spoil a movie for everybody through the music video. Excuse me, but yeah, it's very weird. And then the movie starts and you're just kind of like, I feel like they probably should have saved that for after the film, but I don't think anyone would have been there. So yeah.
That's fair. Yeah. So when I got the email invite for this film, I was told it was going to be an IMAX, and I was like, I need to see this film in IMAX because what is that?
God intended Brady and Brady to be seen.
Yeah. Unfortunately, that was I guess a misprint, or I don't know what happened if they couldn't reserve the IMAX screen.
for Brady was partially shot with IMAX cameras.
Yeah. But yeah, can you imagine? I mean, especially for you, like watching this film in IMAX, that would have been a torturous experience. I imagine.
It takes up the full screen. It's like it's on 70mm film. Right. It's just like it's right there.
But no, I mean, it's been a while since I've had like a screening like this where, usually just screen the film and there's like 10 jaded film critics there and, you just kind of see it, give your thoughts at the end, go about your day, write your review at home. But no, this was like, a pretty packed house. And they had a big game set up where people could like throw footballs to like win, I don't know, t-shirts or whatever. And they had a full DJ like blaring music in the theater. Can you guess like some of the songs that are being played? I'm sure you can.
Like Celebration, I guess some Cool in the Gang came up in there at some point.
Maybe think a little bit more modern, but not that modern.
Happy, the Pharrell song.
Good guess. On the right path. Not that. I don't remember that wasn't played at least when I was there.
Pitbull.
On the right path again. Not there though.
Post Malone.
No Post Malone.
Actually, there's a great Post Malone joke in the new movie Theater Camp at Sundance. I never thought that would be a thing, but it's got a great Post Malone joke.
Yeah. Anyway, I was when I came into the theater, blaring Black Eyed Peas, Party Rockers in the house tonight, and then we instantly went to LMAFO, and then Cotton Eye Joe.
The perfect three. For Brady. Lots of elderly people probably getting up and dancing in their seats. It's like Mamma Mia on Broadway. Everyone's just having a party by the end of it.
So I think with that,
John's gonna kill us for doing another hour-long episode on one of these movies. It's like that gummit. Corey and Will did it again.
Yeah. No, it's funny you say that because like anytime he's left his own devices, he like produces like 20, 30-minute episodes. Like he did that for The Menu, Violent Night or whatever, two of the ones that could have been on. Yeah, he's like, I told him like, yeah, we're gonna do 80 for Brady, Corey and I. It's gonna be nice. Like, oh, okay. Yeah, it's probably I'm sure he expects it by now, but probably thinking like, maybe like 18, 20-minute review, whatever. Nope. No, clocking in maybe we can push it to an hour if you want.
I don't know if that's ethical. I haven't gotten uninvited from this podcast yet, so I've just kind of learned that we've been doing this a long time now.
Yeah. Since we're talking about the Oscars, anything else you want to say about the Oscars to pad this episode out to an hour?
I'm glad they didn't rescind Risenborough's nomination. That was good.
Yeah, I agree.
That was dumb I get that the campaign was weird, but it's like that's what everyone does. Like it's just a person instead of a studio. Let's see. Movies wise, if maybe this is a fun hypothetical. Like, do you think that like I don't know, like who would win in a fight? The 83 Brady women or the Cocaine Bear? Because like they've got the power of friendship, and the Cocaine Bear is a bear that's like it
has the power of cocaine.
Yes. And there's a cocaine joke in this movie.
That is true.
Yeah. Very strange.
I mean, for as much I was, knocking the film for not doing Deflategate jokes, I think they do a couple dick jokes, right?
They do, and there's an Eyes Wide Shut joke too.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah, Stanley Kubrick's Eyes Wide Shut makes an appearance in 80 for Brady.
Yeah. But sorry, to answer your question, I think it would be a close one.
I think Rita Moreno and the bear would really be the big fight. Like I think
if she took those drugs again and saw the bear as Guy Fieri, she could win.
That's the thing. Guy Fieri also should have been in Cocaine Bear. Like there should have been another thing we could have done to make that happen.
Yeah, I mean, I guess if you were to think like, oh, Guy Fieri's in a new 2023, early 2023 movie, your first guess would probably be Cocaine Bear.
Are you dreading that movie and all the internet stuff that's going to come with it?
I'm not dreading it. I'm kind of wondering if it's going to be another Snakes on a Plane situation where it's like the internet kind of hypes it up and they like, oh, it's going to be a big deal, and then no one shows up to see it.
I could see that. I don't know. It's either going to make like $100 million or it's going to just flop. Look at that fish. Now, I think it's going to help that movie that Ant-Man's coming out the week before, and it can kind of siphon the people who aren't going to see Ant-Man audience.
Yeah.
Also, how the heck is there a third Ant-Man movie? Like that's the death of film. Like how the heck are we doing 3 freaking Ant-Man movies?
Man, you were so optimistic about film 15 minutes ago.
I was, but then they came out with the third Ant-Man.
Yeah. I can't say I'm too excited about the new Ant-Man, but I don't know anyone who is.
Jonathan Majors, that's kind of
that's a big thing. Yeah, but I feel like anytime I see the trailer for that film, there's like no real like audience excitement. It's just kind of just like,
well, it's so perfunctory.
Yeah,
it's like Quantumania.
Yeah. But it seems like it's going away from what was fun about Ant-Man, which is like
it's just very low stakes, kind of cheesy, a little bit of sci-fi mixed in there. The most interesting thing about the first Ant-Man movie is you can see all the Edgar Wright residue on it.
Right.
And it's just like sometimes the movie becomes like just really inspired out of nowhere, and then it just kind of goes back to being like TV. What could have been?
I mean, because like the second one, Ant-Man and the Wasp, was a little bit more in the vein of like Peyton Reed's style. Yeah, so like I can kind of see the appeal of that. I don't know, just like the only thing every time I see the movie that gets people excited is the old guy from I Think You Should Leave doing his little joke.
Yeah, and it does not look like that type of movie at all. It looks like they're going to do that for like the first 10 minutes, and then it goes into this like super serious.
Right, but no, I can feel the audience like getting excited, like that happens, they get excited, and then the Quantum Mania stuff happens, and the audience just like whatever. It's Spy Kids 3D all over again.
Oh my gosh, that was the very first movie I ever hated.
Really? Okay, I liked it as a kid, but why do you hate it?
I don't know. I loved the first 2, and I remember going to see that and was like, that's really not good. I was so excited because I thought the Spy Kids movies were like the standard for what kids live action could do.
Did you have the glasses on wrong?
Maybe. I just remember
I can't see anything.
Gummit. This Sylvester Stallone character makes no sense to me, but it's maybe because my glasses are backwards. I remember I looked at my grandma when that was over, and I was like, I really hated that movie. That was not very good. And she was just like, I didn't think any of them were good. And I was just like, she took some bullets back.
Welcome to my world, kid.
It's just like, oh crap, I had to sit with you. This is the one you don't like?
Yeah. Now let's go to Applebee's.
Yes, I remember I took my great-grandma and my grandma to see Osmosis Jones in 2001. So I can only imagine what my great-grandma, who, was alive during the Great Depression and World War II and all that, thought about Osmosis Jones. Can you imagine?
I was just imagining, like, the end of Babylon, but with your grandma. And it's just like
Osmosis Jones. There's just that scene of Bill Murray eating the egg and just going down, and it's just, or the scene where they're at the club and Kid Rock is like a mitosis or something.
Or like she's just processing the history of time and the evolution of technology while watching Bill Murray just like opening his mouth full of food and all that.
That Kangaroo Jack, Crocodile Dundee, Collision Course, all the greats. The Scooby Doo movies.
Well, you brought up Annette. Did you want to tell your Adam Driver story?
Yeah, so I almost interviewed Annette. Excuse me. I was supposed to interview Adam Driver, but then they gave me Baby Annette. I actually interviewed the
Wow,
actual Baby Annette. Yeah, it was crazy.
I can't wait for that
Um,
interview.
she a lot more foul mouthed than you'd expect.
Oh wow, okay.
Um,
Hollywood changed her.
this is totally not making the episode. John's totally going to cut this off.
Oh,
But,
I'd be very curious to see what's going to happen here. But you
we
want to
made
end it
an
now?
hour.
Yeah, we
We
made
did
an
it.
hour. All right,
Yeah.
bye everybody.
Bye.